Shalom, shalom. How's everybody doing? This is your brother and friend, Yeshaya Yisrael. We hope, we pray that everybody is well and will be better. I hope the sound can be heard. Let me check on my end. We hope, we pray. Yes. Well, there has been, brothers and sisters, over, say, maybe 2.5 months, maybe, since the brother did a live presentation. And in giving honor and praise unto the Most High, I want to say I hope everybody is well and will be better. The reason why a brother has not been online doing regular lessons as was done, say, before the summer, is two reasons. One, the Hebrew classes, brothers and sisters, primarily aired on Mordeh Yeshaya Hebrew lessons, has come to a conclusion. We started in the very beginning. Aleph, Bet, Gamel, Dalet. Hey, Wal Zion, Ketet, Yo, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Zade, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tal. We went from that to putting the meanings of those letters and then words connected with the letters with vowels, explaining why there has to be vowels. And going from that particular point, brothers and sisters, being able to sit there and make sentences dealing with grammar, advertising the Hebrew books, which are still online for those who are interested. You can go to Amazon.com and type in Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1, or under the author name Yeshaya Yisrael, and you will see it come up, brothers and sisters, in that particular case. So that is something that we care to sit there and bring out for reference purposes. So after, from 2018 all the way, brothers and sisters, until this year, 7 years of doing Hebrew classes online, not trying to toot one's horn, for free, brothers and sisters, not where people had to pay membership on YouTube, not where people had to say and pay for Patreon or so regarding the Hebrew classes. The only thing a brother asks is you push and promote the book online and to your friends, and then say in that particular case. So again, the Hebrew books are still online, giving honor to the Most High, at Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1, or under the author name Yeshaya Yisrael. It has been over, say, 2.5 months that a brother has done history lessons. The reason for that, brothers and sisters, is because, well, don't take this the wrong way, kind of ran out of content to talk about without being one who was regurgitating things. We've gone over on the platform, Mordeh Yeshaya history lessons, the matter of the Israelites in Egypt, showing the evidence that the book of Exodus talks about external to the Bible. We've gone over the matter of the kings of Assyria in connection with the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. We've gone over the matter of the kings of Babylon in connection with the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. Brothers and sisters, how that history between the matter in part with Carchemish and the matter with Josiah, king of Judah, going all the way down to King Zedekiah and what happened in the 6th century BCE under the rulership of the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, and what happened in that particular case was discussed heavily on that platform. We discussed, brothers and sisters, the external matters before that of Solomon, David, the matter with Ahab and Jezebel and archaeology, brothers and sisters. We discussed on that platform Mordeh Yeshaya history lessons. The class is still up there, giving honor to the Most High. In regards to the matter of the kings of Persia and Media, Cyrus, all the way down to Xerxes, and what happened, according to historians, in relation with the nation of Israel, namely the Murashu records, for those who are interested. We've talked, brothers and sisters, namely upon the video called From Jerusalem to the Hood, Part 4, which is still online, giving honor to the Most High, about the matter with the Greeks and the Israelites, what happened during the timing of Alexander, the son of Philip of Macedon, and what happened with his generals and the Israelites, Ptolemy, brothers and sisters being one, and the matter with the Pinion battle with Seleucus, brothers and sisters, and what happened in 198 BCE. Then we began to talk about the matter of Hanukkah or Hanukkah, brothers and sisters on the platform. And then what happened with Mummius and what happened with the Greeks and how the Corinth battle eventually caused the Greeks to lose power in the earth. And Rome came up as a power, and their influence, whether good or bad, mostly bad, sadly, regarding the nation of Israel. What happened, brothers and sisters, with Julius Caesar and the children of Israel. And prior to that, with Pompey going into the temple in 63 BCE, brothers and sisters. What happened, brothers and sisters, with the Ptolemies that was still ruling in Egypt. Ptolemy the 13th, correct me if I'm wrong, being the one who put Pompey to death, and how that in part affected the house of Israel or the house of Israel. What happened, brothers and sisters, in history between the Romans and the Israelites when Rome came to become an empire after the timing of Julius Caesar, brothers and sisters. Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, wanting his image in the temple. What happened, brothers and sisters, in part with Claudius and the Israelites. What happened with Nero, and not to be arrogant or anything of that sort. One of the things I try to show is this. When it says that the Israelites had the upper hand in fifth battles between the army of Rome and themselves, all you got to do is look, not trying to sound boastful, who's good with the knuckles? Who's good with their hands? Recently, I've been seeing on YouTube a whole bunch of stuff about Mike Tyson knocking people out left and right. This person knocking people out left and right. Well, during the time of Nero of Rome, it's been noted in history, brothers and sisters, that the Israelites were good with their fists. Who in the world is known to be good with their fists? Did you know Frederick Douglass knuckled down his slave master after getting beaten by him and then ran away? And this is not to promote violence. Do you sit back and think, long before that, when Moses defended the daughters of Jethro, that he just spoke to the shepherds and sat there and said, hey, don't bother these ladies? No, Moses laid those hands on them. What did David say centuries after Moses? I'm going to take your sword, cut your head off, and I'm going to drop you right here, Goliath. That's essentially what David was saying. This is not to talk tough. This is not to talk street, but this is just things to point out. So now when a brother giving thanks to the Most High, shalom, my brother Tishama, is in the spirit and want to recap on what's been going on with one's life. One of the last videos I made was lessons between me and my daughter. And that is who I've been spending a whole lot of time with. Holy day, other day, any day, spending time, wanting to chill. And that, for those who do know, my princess is going to be a grown woman soon. So I want to sit there and get as much time before she goes off and be married. Because at that point, well, I won't have as much time because she'll be a grown married woman. And this is why us men who have daughters, not to say women who have daughters, but us men who have daughters, you got to spend as much time as you want and can. Because they're eventually going to tell you they want their own time. And what do you do then? See? So this is saying, just to say, point out for reference purposes. You know? So the brother just asked me where I've been. Well, Aki, shalom, my brother Tishama, with the fam, immediate fam. On the 7th day, sometimes what I've been doing is just relaxing, laying out in Jersey with my little princess and so forth and so on. Studying, reading, learning from her, getting her understanding on certain things, and me having more time with the little princess giving her understanding to the best of my ability. To answer your question, my brother, thank you for asking. And I ask you too, Chishama, my shalom ka, shalom tob. Yes, I am well. Thank you for asking, Aki. So now, when we are on these particular platforms this day, Mordeh Yeshaya Torah lessons, there's a presentation on it going from Exodus 1 to Exodus 40. Talking everything from the Exodus itself to when they built the tabernacle. So what can we ascertain apart from that is this. In building the tabernacle, when you free, you still got obligations. It wasn't they get out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, and then they sit and chill and do absolutely nothing. Your work is still required. You understand? And so these are things to point out for reference purposes. Now, what I was just talking upon was speaking upon these particular platforms, the history of the platform Mordeh Yeshaya Hebrew lessons, the history of the platform Mordeh Yeshaya history lessons, and the platform Mordeh Yeshaya Torah lessons. Most of the subscribers, and I thank you all for subscribing, come from the platform Mordeh Yeshaya Torah lessons. You understand? The Hebrew classes, not to be funny, they're done. And what I mean by that is, like stated, we went from the very beginning, the Aleph Bet, all the way to taking pronouns with verbs that are conjugated in the past tense and putting them together. What am I saying? A pronoun takes the place, essentially, if I'm not to be mistaken, of a noun. Right? Okay, now, Ra'ah in Hebrew means to see. We're not talking har'ah, meaning to do wickedness or to be evil, from the word ra. No, we're talking ra'ah itself, meaning what? To see. Ra'iti, past tense, conjugated. I saw. Ra'iti ka, I saw you. We went through all of that. We went through the prefixes, how that works in the future tense, how that works in changing a verb, brothers and sisters, to a noun. Tabak, meaning to slaughter. Bitabak, putting the mem first, makes that the word kitchen, brothers and sisters. Ashan, to smoke. Ma'ashena, chimney. Because from the chimney, brothers and sisters, comes smoke. That's how Hebrew works. We went through all of that on that platform. And I was just discussing too, brothers and sisters, about the matter of saying you have Mordeh Yeshaya history lessons. I ended up talking about what happened with Nero and the Israelites. And then after Nero, you eventually get right down Vespasian, and then his sons, Titus and Domitian in time, and what happened all the way leading to the year that many people talk about, 70 AD. But let me say this real quick. When you hear people speak upon 70 AD, that war that was in commence started in 66 AD and it ended in 73 AD. I believe the reason why 70 AD is highlighted is because that's when they burnt the temple. But the people were still fighting after the temple was destroyed. Rome, in order to get to do anything against Israel, had to move like a snail. They had to move underground. Because if you remember just talking about what happened with Israelites and Nero, historians point out that the Israelites were good with their fists. So they couldn't go against the sons of Judah and the sons of the Levites just head on. They had to sit there and dig and tunnel under the ground and then come up under the temple in order for it, say, to be burnt in that particular case. If you know what happened with Rome and the Israelites, speaking upon already the matter with Nero and the Israelites slinging a fist down upon the Romans, before that, they used to use catapults from where the temple was, the roof area there, and throw bricks on the Romans itself. So Israel, when Rome attacked, was not on some turn the other cheek kind of matter. They were really fighting hard. So where now when you get to Titus and you read about the matter with Titus in that matter, he had to sit there and come with different kind of legions and go up as stated in Josephus underground in order to sit there to do what he minded up doing. The Arch of Titus, brothers and sisters, that you see in history, also shown on the platform, was made by his brother Domitian. Some people say Domitian had Titus assassinated. That's up in the air. But what I'm saying and what I'm attempting to convey is speaking upon the history of these platforms, what a brother has been doing, and why the platforms, not to be funny, were kind of dormant, is because, let me say this again, the Hebrew platform had nothing else to really add to it. From 2018 to 2025, we went over a whole bunch of stuff. Lesson 1 all the way down to lesson 53, in and off in the Hitpael stem. And then going into biblical Hebrew for those who sit there and get into it. Again, not to be arrogant or free. Not on membership where you had to pay $2 a month, $5 a month. Not on Patreon. All of those classes were free and still online for free. What I do ask the people care to is you can go on Amazon and get the Hebrew books. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1. And then it will show you the links for the others. Now, getting back into what I was attempting to convey and talk about what happened with the platform Moreh Yeshaya history lessons. After we stopped talking about the matter with Rome and it fell, mainly talking about the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, not so much the Eastern with Byzantine in 1453. I'm going to explain what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is I wanted up focusing on the Israelites from the timing of Jeremiah all the way down into the timing of Dunuas and Ghana, talking about the children of Israel scattered into African places. Let me say this in due respect. And this is not the happiest situation. When Solomon wanted to assassinate Jeroboam, right, in the Bible, Jeroboam went to Egypt. When King Jehoiakim wound up assassinating the prophet Uriah was in Egypt. When the children of Israel that were not taken to Babylon fled the land of Israel in the timing of the prophet Jeremiah, they went into the land of Egypt. I've been to Egypt. Egypt, not to be funny or racial, is a black country. The Israelites were used to going to African places. Hence, you see why in the prophet Isaiah, you would see Egypt mentioned. Where did the Israelites go after the Ptolemies fled into Egypt themselves, or went into Egypt themselves as conquerors? They wound up migrating to the Sudan. They wound up migrating to places like Ethiopia. That's why you might see those countries mentioned in Isaiah 11 for the Moreh Yeshaya Torah lesson presentation. And if you read, brothers and sisters, in the book of Zephaniah, during the timing of the prophet Zephaniah, during the time of the king Josiah, it says from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. So the two main rivers, correct me if I'm wrong, in Ethiopia is called the White Nile and the Blue Nile. So from beyond that, in Zephaniah chapter 3, dating to the timing of Josiah, also during the timing of Jeremiah, say over 55 years after Isaiah spoke about Israelites in Ethiopia, you find the prophets later on talking about Israelites in African places. So now by the time Hadrian of Rome in the 2nd century AD or 2nd century CE starts to talk about people being displaced, and you read before that with Trajan or so, Nerva or so, regarding the Kittos battle, and then you read about the Bar Kokhba battle, and the Israelites were not permitted to go from Libya and Northeast Africa, migrating from Egypt, as we discussed, into the land of Israel. Where would the Israelites go? This is when we start talking about the author, may he be blessed. He's still among us, Root of Windsor. And what he cited about Eldad the Danite, saying that tribes of Israel were in Western Africa and merged with other tribes of Israel that migrated there into Northern Africa and formed kingdoms. That is part of what we've been talking about in day and night publications. So after doing those kind of lessons, from dealing with the language, dealing in the history, and there is, in truth, no ending in the wisdom of Torah. So Mordechai Yeshai Torah lessons, there really can't be an ending to a great extent with that because the knowledge of the Torah is infinite. See, it's not like there's a date that it stops. It's not like there's a verb pattern and that stops with the Hebrew or the history. But just want to go over, say that in that particular case. To the brothers and sisters who subscribe, definitely appreciate it. To the families who patronized, definitely appreciate it. Brothers and sisters, I've noticed, and not trying to be funny, that the Hebrew books have been selling more and more online. It definitely is appreciated. And as you see the number across the screen, 908-587-4841, it is definitely welcome to be reached out to. You know, if I ever offended anybody in any presentation, I apologize. But let me know. Let me know if I offended. Let me know if I did something wrong. Let me know if I said something wrong. I come from congregations that if you was teaching and you said something wrong, one or two things would happen. They will pass you a note so you can explain the truth of the matter. Or when you're done speaking, they will respectfully, I don't want to use the word pull, but they will respectfully talk to you to the side and explain what you said about this or that was incorrect. And then have you go and correct yourself. They would not sit there and correct you while you're still talking. That's rude. That was always frowned upon in the camps that I came up and through. If a man is speaking and he says something that is incorrect, you do not at that same token, brother, you're wrong for that. You don't do that. There's a tactful way to even rebuke your neighbor. And I remember that. And it gave me a sense when I was a child growing up in Israel that these men respect each other. You don't ever sit there and embarrass a man, whether his wife and children are there or not, whether the man is single and has no children or not. But certainly, if a man has a wife and children, should be the standard that you never disrespect any man in that particular case. You don't try to put your brother or your sister on blast in that particular case. And it is expected that if you are speaking, be it Shabbat or otherwise, and by Shabbat I mean Sabbath, that you are respectful and humble enough to accept the rebuke. To not sit back and think, can't nobody tell me because of what? That's not wise. That's not how you present yourself. And as a respected more meaning teacher, I believe that it is incumbent upon us to cite your sources, state where you get your info from. It don't make you any less of a more. You have some people, and it's not to be rude, they'll never sit there and cite their sources. Maybe they feel that it takes something from their own credit. But what you don't realize is even in school, if you write something and don't have a bibliography, yeah, that can be either one or two things. Your grade drops, or if it's very serious, they can say it's plagiarism. So you want to be careful and say that particular case. You understand? Jeremiah the prophet cited Micah the prophet. And it didn't take nothing away from Jeremiah as a prophet to do so. See? And that's all one in the same book. Now, brothers and sisters, and by same book, I mean the said Old Testament, which is something else I care to talk about. Ever so often in Israel, it comes up between quote unquote Old Testament versus New Testament. That looks sloppy. Let me, as a brother who is said to be Old Testament based, Tanakh based, some of the standards and reasons why such is the case, and giving honor to the Most High. The Torah, the book of Genesis, starts In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The Most High is in the beginning of the Torah. In the beginning of the New Testament, it says the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. David and Abraham are mentioned in the Old Testament. So you cannot go into the New Testament, say you're going to understand it, and then say that you're not going to go into what you incorrectly, and I say you in general, call the Old Testament. There have been brothers and sisters who may have unsubscribed or not supported a brother because, well, Yeshaya is Old Testament based. Yeshaya does not, quote, believe in the New Testament. That's what it is in that case then. When you read in the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 34, it says, seek ye out the book of the Most High. So what book is Isaiah talking about? In Jeremiah chapter 6, letting the book speak, when it says, seek ye the old paths. What book is Jeremiah talking about seeking the old paths? During the time of the prophet Jeremiah, during the time of King Josiah, when they found the book of the law and everybody was happy about it, what book did Josiah find and the scribes of Josiah find that made the people happy? When you read in Lamentations chapter 5, and it says, renew our days as of old. What were they talking about? When Babylon ransacked Jerusalem, as pointed out before in the 6th century BCE, what were the Israelites talking about in Lamentations chapter 5, saying, renew our days as of old? Return unto us and we shall be returned. Or turn unto us and we shall be turned. Renew our days as of old. While Babylon was still in rule, the Israelites were hoping for their olden days back. So now with those examples, Genesis 1, where it speaks of the Most High, any book that starts in its intro lets you know the thesis and theme of the book. And the Torah starts with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So the author is letting you know it's of the Most High. Then when you go into the prophets, namely the two-sided, Isaiah 34, saying, seek ye the book of Yah. And in Jeremiah, when it says seek the old paths, and then in Jeremiah 6, that is, and then in Lamentations, where it says, renew our days as of old, where was Israel looking for a new book? Israel wasn't. So these are things that we're talking about in regards in that particular matter. So why should or would there be a debate ever so often or at all in Israel about the whole Old Testament versus New Testament? All camps in Israel go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. That's in the said Old Testament. Some cite Leviticus 26. That is in said the Old Testament. To go into the history about what happened with the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, many go to 2 Kings chapter 17. Many go, brothers and sisters, to 2 Kings 25. All of that is in the said Old Testament. So these are things looking at it in that particular case. How is there, not to be redundant or argumentative, an actual debate about that? Should not be. Another matter in discussing, and I appreciate the people who are taking out their own personal time to even sit there and listen. As we pointed out, scripturally and historically, the children of Israel in many cases migrated to places in Africa. I mean, when you go in Jeremiah, I believe it's Jeremiah 36, but you can look up the prophet Uriah when he was running from one of the kings of Judah, a murderer. He went into Egypt. People are going to go to and migrating where they're used to going to. So if the Israelites in their own volition were not going to European places, how would you have the bulk of the children of Israel coming up out of Europe saying they're claiming the land in the land of the east? If Jeroboam, running from Solomon in the said Old Testament, went to Egypt, which is in Africa, if Uriah, running from King Jehoiakim, ran into Egypt, which is in Africa, if Judah, in part, ran into Egypt, which is in Africa, from Nebuchadnezzar, if the prophet Nahum is talking about the Egyptian city today called Thebes, in the Bible called the land of No, N-O, or called the land of Waset inside of ancient Kemetic stuff, and it mentions about Israelites in migration with the Assyrians coming up against in 671 or 670 BCE against the Egyptians. Why would you have the Israelite prophet Nahum talking about the Assyrians in the 7th century BCE going against the land of No, N-O in the Bible, called Thebes by the Greeks, called Waset by the Egyptians, if Israel or Israel had nothing to do with it in the first place, one way or the other? These are things, brothers and sisters, that are pointed out on these platforms. So now, how do you have a book that in Genesis chapter 10 in the said Old Testament has it to where Nimrod, a Hamite person, kingdom is in Akkad, Kalne, and Erech, or Uruk inside of ancient Sumerian. You read about, for the lack of a better term, African men of the line of Ham inside of the said, quote unquote, today Middle East, having kingdoms. So when you read secular books talking about the African presence in Asia, let's not sit there and wonder what that could be talking about, because Genesis chapter 10 gets into that kind of subject. These are things that we care to bring out and have brought out on these platforms over the course of time. How does that become important? One, it's in your book, House of Israel. That's not a typo. It's there for a reason. The other point that we care to sit there and bring out in that case is this. In light of what we're talking about, why would be, and I'm not trying to tell no one how to think or speak, why would we be so focused on saying the Khazars in one case, the converts in the other, or we are so pressed, and I'm not trying to, again, tell no one how to speak, are not the children of Israel? That's a known fact. In New York, there was a guy going up and down on what they call the 4 train, proclaiming the same thing about the European Jews. That's already, there's been books out, literature out, and so forth. You notice how the culture is taken slightly as a joke in some cases, maybe because you're not, say, the real people. But while we proclaim ourselves as the real people, do we take our days and times as important? Because these nations, they're getting ready for their Turkey Day hard. They sending emails out in the job. They're talking about this place will be closed and we're preparing. Get your turkey if you want it. These nations go hard for their days. Well, we, the House of Israel, while proclaiming us not to be racial or colorblind, quote unquote, the black man, the true House of Israel, while we know this is ours, Why do we play with our days and times? In Jeremiah, not trying to play prophet because I'm not. It says, go over and look at Kedar and see if a nation changed their no gods. So why does Israel replace their glory for that which doesn't profit? So while we proclaim these people, the Khazars, coming out of the bulk of Europe, where Israel did not go to in bulk, and by Israel I mean the people, how are they topping us in our days and times? How they got more unity on Shabbat than we do? How is their booth looking a certain way in Sukkot than ours? How are people that we tell the world in books, online, offline, citing people like Arthur Koestler in his book, The 13th Tribe, they not to quote the real Jews. But then they got more unity in their attempt to do the laws of Leviticus 23 that was given to a people of color than the true house of Israel. This is not a competition thing. It's a wake-up call that one is saying, is like in the thing I said, I have a message. You can't say that the people are fake and then sit there and turn around and see them doing better than you and what's yours. That makes no sense. Or as they say in the street, make it make sense. They're fake, doing your real culture out you. That does not make any sense. And it will never make any sense. Why do we have different calendars in Israel? Let's explain, brothers and sisters. In the scriptures, when it says the Most High's covenant with the day and the Most High's covenant with the night, is that has nothing to do with us in the covenant that we have with the Most High. That's his covenant with the day and his covenant with the night. Let me give you an example. The time that Jacob fought the angel, and the angel said, the day breaketh, I must go. Jacob could have still been walking, still been fighting, but the covenant that the Most High had with that particular Malach or angel in the day and night caused this particular Malach in the book of Genesis to have to go away from Jacob. That Malach was on a commission to not be in the daytime on earth fighting a human. His time was at night, apparently. Yet, as a man, we can fight in the day and night. So I'll point that out to say in Jeremiah, when it says about the Most High's covenant with the day and the night, does not affect us. So now, if a man has a nocturnal emission, that's to say, in layman terms, a wet dream, on a quote Friday night, he's unclean until the Saturday night. If a man has an uncleanness and does not wash himself up, which is something should not be, he's unclean until he washes himself up. When a woman has her uncleanness, she's unclean 7 days. So if her uncleanness comes to her at 3 a.m., which is still nighttime, dark if you will, she's still unclean. So now, during the daytime, so how do we have it where Israelites are, no disrespect intended, misquoting Jeremiah when it says the Most High's covenant with the day and night, to say that the Sabbath day is only the daylight part, when we know as men and women, we can do some of the same things in day and night. The Malachim, the heavens, the Malachim, the angels, me and Hashemayim from the heavens, they can't. They may have their own particular schedule. So what do we want to point out in that case? You can't say that the Sabbath day, if you're getting unclean Friday night, means that the Sabbath is only in the day when the sun come up. Because if you're unclean, man or woman, from 3 a.m. prior to that sun coming up, you're still unclean. And that's part of the covenant laws in Leviticus that the Most High made with the house of Israel. Do the Malachim, like the one that fought with Jacob, does he get unclean? I would think not. Does the heavenly host that it says the Most High's covenant with the day and the night and the operations of the sun and the sun and the moon don't get unclean. Us humans do. So if we take the covenant that's given to us as humans and seeing a matter of uncleanness, for instance, and being able to attend the assembly under such circumstances, we should not think that it is possible for a woman to be on her time of separation or a man to be unclean and think that the same covenant that the sun and the moon have that does not get unclean and that operates whether we're unclean or not can be used or said or thought or connected or catalyst, if I may use the correct wording, to say, well, the daylight is the Sabbath itself. When it says Zakur et Yom HaShabbat LaQuadsho, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Let's understand day in Hebraic thought. Day is the word Yom. It's the same word that's used for time, Time. And you see Yom, the plural Yamim, used as day and time interchangeably when you go in the Bible in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10. If I can, let me pull that up. I have not been online and I see the StreamYard thing done changed up and everything else. So, but let me see if I can pull this up. All right. And attempt to show what I'm talking about in this particular case. Thank you for that, family. Right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Am I able to show what I'm talking about there in that case? It's not showing on the screen. So what I'm going to do is this. Take this, right? If I may. Hopefully everybody is well and will be better, right? And if I may, thank you for that, family. All righty. I thought I was going to be able to show that there. Maybe this will show it. Let's see. Nope, that ain't it. Let's see. Share screen. Maybe that'll do it. Entire screen. Thank you for that, family. And now let's see if that'll work. And it appears to so in that case. And if that is the case, then I may be able to do it from here. Let's see if I can see it on mine. If it shows, and it looks like it is. All righty. So now let's look at this. Thank you for the timing, family. I had to do the share screen. See, it's been a minute. All right. Deuteronomy 10, verse 10. Now I stayed in the mount as at the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. And Yah hearken unto me that time also. Yah will not destroy thee. Now, in the Hebrew, we want to point out, if we will, being Hebrews ourselves, right? If I may, let's go back here and pull this up. Let's see if that shows in the PowerPoint. One I just made. And it does. Now let's look, family. I usually like to use the Times New Roman because I'm used to it in that particular case. In that particular matter, right? And let's look. It says, remember, Hebrews read from right to left. Wa anoki amati bahar kayamim harishonim. And let's look at this right here. Right? Just so there in the bold. The first days. Yamim means days from the word yom. Arba'im yom, meaning 40 days. Wa arba'im laila, and 40 nights. Now, brothers and sisters, if we know that Yamim here, right, shown in the yellow is days, and Yom is the singular of shuts. We're going to show this in the green. Then, if Yom meaning day cannot mean time, we will read Deuteronomy 10:10 as this. Now I stayed in the mount as at the first time 40 days and 40 nights. No, we will read it, sorry, as this. Now I stayed in the mount as at the first days, 40 days and 40 nights. See, that's why Yamim, the plural of Yom, can be interchanged between day and time. So now when we read, brothers and sisters, about remembering the Sabbath day to keep it holy, if we will, right? What are we reading? Remember the Sabbath time to keep it holy. See how easy that was? And it's not trying to be arrogant or funny or nothing like that. So, brothers and sisters, we hope, we pray that there's no way that we're going to sit back and think that the Sabbath can only be, in quote, the daylight, because it says, remember the Sabbath day. Now that we have an understanding of day and time in Hebraic thought. And the citation that we just got this from comes from the scriptures in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10. Are there any questions? Please let us know. So, family, and giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth, the one who sees all and is not seen, the one who judges all and is not judged. We hope, we pray that everybody is well and will be better. Thus ends the matter of it's been a while and the message to bring forth. You understand? Somebody typed in this. Let me see. There's a recent teaching. That ain't recent, brother or sister. I don't know. Magneto Black. I don't know if you're a brother or sister, so I say brother or sister. There's a recent teaching that we cannot keep the Sabbath in captivity from a so-called Yah only Israelites now. Nah. At first, and I don't mean no disrespect, I say brother or sister because I don't know your gender. But that ain't new. Let me, if I may, I wasn't going to use my camera, but let me try to, if I may, explain something. Brothers and sisters, if you can see the camera, you see that? That's why Israelites say you can't keep Sabbath. They want a lot of these. It's a money grab. That's why I made sure I took the dollar that I had to show that. Israelites who are teaching that we cannot keep the Sabbath want that bankroll that comes with the job, the career, if you will, too. Israelites who are teaching that we cannot keep the Sabbath. She look good. They ain't gonna miss that date Friday night. They're gonna take her out after they got paid Thursday or Friday. They already put that inside the Zelle thing. They already put their Cash App money aside to take her out while not teaching her the commandments. You can't. How can you? You out on a Friday night going into Saturday morning. You already booked the hotel for the sweetheart. Essentially, men who teach that you cannot sit there and keep the Sabbath is based upon money and wanting to deal with a lady. We're going to keep it, not trying to be funny, just showing $1 a buck. That's what it boils down to. Because you have to sit back, not to take the time away. You have to sit back and what will make you want to say that we can't keep a day of rest? Let's think about the word Shabbat, right? We went over the word Yom. We went over the word Yamin. The word Shabbat itself means cease. It's a verb too, you know that. Shabbat means to cease. Shabbati means I ceased. So how in the world, not trying to be funny or talk worldly, because that's something I stopped on the platform, don't deal with profanity. But how in the world you're going to say that you can't keep a day of rest? That you can't cease from work? So what then is it that's causing you to say that you can't keep it? You can't say, like some have, well, it says you will find no rest for the sole of your foot in Deuteronomy 28. Because having no rest for the sole of your foot, let me try to show what that portion is talking about in Deuteronomy 28, if I may say. All right? Thank you for the time. Thank you for the comment. So I want to show what kind of matter that's talking about when it says no rest for the sole of your foot, if we will, right? Let's look, family. And I say this again in no disrespect. Thank you for that, my friend. Let's look, if we will. Okay, that part didn't work. But let's show what we're talking about. In, say, that particular case. All right? If we will. Let's go back here. Let's look in this. Can that be seen? Looking at it in that particular case. We want to show, yeah, I see it on mine. See, that's what happens, like Deuteronomy talking about when it says no rest for the sole of your foot. You got one person on the side holding his brother. You got elders holding the babies, and they're escaping slavery while being pursued by the enemies. We're not being pursued by enemies. We're being pursued by your lust and desires, by your disrespect and your lack of understanding of discipline. Because see, Shabbat, Sabbath brings a discipline. The people that you see there shown with Harriet Tubman, that is no rest for the sole of your foot. They can't keep Shabbat. So now when we start talking about prophecy in like Deuteronomy 28, in that particular case, we don't want to have to go back to the 19th century running away with an axe to sit there and kill a dog that they got pursuing you, where your body lays there in Deuteronomy 28 with none to bury them, like it says in Psalm 79. We don't want that. When Babylon was besieging, as we spoke about in the 6th century BCE, to collaborate what you just stated, my brother or sister, they could not keep Shabbat in that particular case. So now when people say, like you pointed out, it is said because we can only keep it in the land, then how then could they not keep it while in the land when being pursued by Babylon? When Babylon had the city of Jerusalem surrounded and famine struck, how were they then able to keep it? They couldn't keep it then. So while they were still in the land, they still could not keep it. Just like we shown in the picture with the Harriet Tubman in captivity, they were not able to keep it. What it is, dudes want to take the lady out Friday night after getting paid Thursday or Friday, and they not giving up that overtime on Saturday. Let's just be a buck with it, Israel. You're not giving up that overtime on Saturday. It looks good on the check, and she looked good Friday night. That's what it is. Because again, not to be funny, have to ask ourselves, how then are you mentally able to say, don't keep a day of rest? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. You want to tell people to not be holy? 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, which means that the Most High is giving you a time for you to handle your business. But the 7th day is the Sabbath to the Lord thy God. So not to be funny, the New Testament telling you that man is Lord over the Sabbath. No. It says in Exodus what it is. For the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord thy God. In it, you shall not do any manner of work. And I'm not coming online professing to, in my 40-something years in the understanding of Israel, having been the best Sabbath keeper. I am not going to say that of myself throughout the course of my life. But you don't sit there and teach to go against the commandments of the Most High. You don't sit there and say you can go out there and sell venues and things like that because we're not in the land. That's wickedness. Because at that point, not to be funny, you worship in the land and not the Most High. The children of Israel were keeping the Sabbath. Supposed to have been keeping it in the wilderness before they got into the land. Another argument that people stated concerning the observance of the Sabbath I heard is, well, the people are supposed to bring them offerings in Numbers 28. So where's your offering at? The offering that is brought up, brothers and sisters, in Numbers 28, we're going to let the book speak. Let's read it. Right? This is in Numbers 28. And let's see what it says there. Because the truth is this. You don't want to do it. Just be 100. Stop playing games. Those who saying you can't do it don't want to do it. So now, Numbers 28, verse 1. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel, and say unto them, my food which is presented unto me for offering shall be made by fire, of a sweet savor unto me. You shall observe to offer unto me in its due season. Let's go to verse 9. And on the Sabbath day, 2 he lambs of the first year without blemish, and 2/10 part of an ephah of fine flour for a meal offering, mingled with oil, and a drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every Shabbat, beside the continual burnt offering, which means every day, and a drink offering thereof. So now we're reading here, it says, and on the Sabbath, 2 he lambs of the first year without blemish. Now let me ask, does every Israelite man or every Israelite family have 2 he lambs for every Shabbat every week? Can somebody in the comments answer that? Reading what we just read in Numbers 28, when it says, and on the Shabbat, the Sabbath, where it says, every Sabbath, 2 he lambs. Do you know how much money that is? How many shekels in the ancient world that is? Everyone doesn't have it like that. You read about the timing of, I think it's Elijah or Elisha. I think if my brother Shama is still present, he could correct me, where the woman's oil had to sit there and be used again and again, whether it was Elisha or Elijah's time, because they were stuck in poverty. So everybody in ancient days did not have 2 he lambs. And the offering that was done, that was presented, was done in the sanctuary. So now if you're in ancient Israel on the east side of the Jordan, were you going over the Jordan every Shabbat to bring it? No. People are going to try to use things to say, we can't do. We can't do. And I'm not trying to play prophet when we say we don't have, while we keep saying we can't do. We wonder why the Most High is doing that with us, maybe. We're telling Yah we can't do. Now, what if the Most High say, I won't do? You want to talk about building a school, but you're arguing about keeping the 7th day. Maybe if we did it as a communal thing, we might see more communal things. One of the things, and it's not to get sidetracked at all, that I like to talk about and talk in the scriptures is Exodus. And it's not to be self-centered. I've been in Egypt. The ancient Egyptian culture, let me state, I'm not trying to get sidetracked. The ancient Egyptian culture was extremely engrossed in snakes. When you look at the Saqqara of ancient Egypt, their pyramids and things of that nature have the serpent images heavily. So when Moses cast down the staff and it became a serpent, the Egyptians knew what that was about. The Most High is going to talk to you the way that you will understand where he's coming from. Do we understand what's being said? In ancient days, the Egyptians were engrossed in serpent stuff, snake stuff. Let's not be surprised that the sign in Exodus, when the rod was cast down and it ate the rods of the Pharaoh, let's see what it is. And the Most High, I'm not trying to play prophet, does not change. We talk about, we don't have this. We can't do this. We don't have this. How come this is difficult? Are we being difficult against the Most High? And he's showing us, as it says, not playing prophet, your own wickedness will correct you. You must be wicked to try to say a man or a woman cannot rest. If Shabbat means cease, in other words, spiritually and physically, ceasing from work, and you're going to tell a brother or sister, get your behind up and go for Martha, what are you saying, brother? You're going to keep the language clean. You're going to tell me to go to work for the man? because many of us don't have our own businesses. So when you say we can't rest on Shabbat, who are you telling me to work for? I need you to answer that. Ak. Who are you telling me to put the clock in for? I've been spending many days, whether on or offline, with my little princess. Who are you telling me to go to work for on the Shabbat? Judah, Gad, the wolf of Benjamin, the warriors of Simeon, all these tribes of Israel that we talk about. I am asking, can somebody answer in the comment, when you say, I'm speaking in general, when anybody says that you cannot work, pardon me, that you cannot keep the Sabbath, meaning that you have to work, who are you telling me to go to work for, Negro? Are you telling me to sit there and take the place of the people Harriet Tubman tried to free? You a wicked dude, man. You're wicked to tell the children of Israel that they must work on the day that they're supposed to rest. See, now getting back in the book, right? When it says about Numbers 28, as we read earlier, let's read it again, if we will, family. All right? If we may. Does it show on the... Yes. Numbers 28, verse 9. And on the Sabbath day, 2 he lambs of the first year without blemish. These offerings that you're talking about and that we're reading about, or from the free will offerings that when you read in your own time is in Deuteronomy chapter 12. The people would have already been bringing up offerings. So the ones that are doing the offerings that you see in Numbers 28 on behalf of the children of Israel are the Levites, the priests of the sons of Aaron. It's not the man that had the nocturnal emission, the uncleanness at 3 a.m. Saturday morning, quote unquote. He's not bringing that offering to the temple. He's unclean. So when it says 2 he lambs of the first year, it's talking about of the lambs that's already there when you read in your own time in Deuteronomy 12. But see, and it's not to try to sound arrogant or funny. You're not going to get to that part because people who say about not keeping the Sabbath, they thinking about that Saturday pay after they spent time with the lady Friday night. So Deuteronomy 12 is not in your focus. She's in your focus. And it ain't her fault because she may not understand that she may be of the tribe of Judah. You ain't teaching her the Lord's statutes, commandments, going out with her Friday night. You're not up there seeing pamphlets or flyers or anything of that sort with your co-workers if you quote unquote stuck on Saturday while teaching the children of Israel that they can't keep it. And one of the questions I have, not to take nothing from the scriptures at all, is who do you work for to tell an Israelite, a brother, a sister, maybe a single mother, maybe a man dealing with this bill or that bill? You're telling me that I don't get no break? That I can't quote unquote wake up on so-called Saturday morning and be like, whew, that was a rough week. Let me get my spirit back right. I don't deserve that. I don't get to sit there and have that time with or without my princess that a brother been doing. You wicked, man. That's really just what it's going to boil down to. So, looking at it like that, in that particular case, we hope, we pray that everybody is well and will be better. Again, in closing out, I have not been on a platform for quite a while. I stated the reasons why. It was nothing against anybody. If I ever offended anybody while online or offline, I apologize. I can be reached again at 908-587-4841. The Hebrew books I do promote, brothers and sisters, I'm going to show right here, if we will, right? we may. Um, thank you for that. Hebrews Easy Volume 1. Um, okay. Thank you for that. Looking at it in that particular case, you can go online and look it up. As you see, that book right there could take you to the other books as far as it goes with that in that particular case. All right. Going on into this particular matter, we have, I'm going to suggest two more books for those who are interested. Um, mhm. If I may, in this case, this is another book a brother wrote. Some like it, some may not. Old Testament Israelites response to Messianic Israelites, as we touched upon earlier. You can go online and get that as well for those who do want it. And a history book a brother wrote of the several, giving honor to the Most High. I suggest this one here. In this particular case. Thank you for that, family. Call this From Assyria to America. Um, the cover is different online, but the content is still the same. You will see a blue cover online, but it's called From Assyria to America. All right. More so shown in this way with the matter there. I put in giving honor, may he rest in peace to my father. I authorize the history books in his name and the Hebrew and theology books in my Hebrew name. All right. So, and say in that particular case, um, hoping and praying everybody as well and will be better. Somebody said, what do you think of the BHS Hebrew Tanakh as good beginners? What is the BHS Hebrew Tanakh? I don't know what that is. Can you enlighten me on what that is? Thank you for the question. And if I may ask, are you a brother or sister? Because I don't know. So I don't want to say brother or sister to the wrong gender. Sorry. You're asking me, what do I think of the BHS Hebrew Tanakh? I'll look it up. Let's see what we're talking about here. BHS Tanakh. Okay, are we talking let me see. Are we talking about what we're looking at right here? The JPS Hebrew English Tanakh, where it's like a brown cover, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you're talking about? No? Then that's what came up. So let me see what you're talking about. Because the English is either going to be on point or trash as far as it goes with that. So the Hebrew, throughout whatever quote version of the Tanakh publisher, is going to be consistent. But the English is going to sit there and be funny in certain cases. Biblia Hebraica. Oh, let me see what you're talking about. Let me look this up right here that you're saying. And so looking at it like that. Biblia HebraIcast. Okay. Biblia Hebraica. BHS Reader's Edition. It looks like it's something to do with translation from Spanish. Not sure. So honestly, I have nothing to say yay or nay about it because, and I say thank you for putting me onto it. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not going to say yay or nay for study purposes. In that particular case, I would have to see it more so in order to be able to sit there and say anything about it. And then hopefully that's a satisfied answer at the moment with the amount of knowledge that I have concerning that itself. So hopefully that's satisfactory at that particular matter. I think it says it's at Walmart when I looked it up on my phone, but yeah. Hopefully that was satisfactory as an answer in that particular case. So we pray that everybody is well and will be better. All right. We're gonna sit there and close out. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think. 908-587-4841. Most High bless. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Not going to be long. Just want to make a video regarding the matter of the name that we say we are and can lay claim to, giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth, the Most High. This is the word here, Yisrael. Now, for those who say Hebrew has no vowels, they will say this is Yashara'Allah or Yashra'al or Yashara'al. You see it different ways said by those who say Hebrew has no vowels. And this is no disrespect intended, nonetheless, but ah is a vowel. It's a sound. What a vowel is in actuality is a written sound. So if you were to say this is Yashara'Allah, you're still saying vowels with it, just saying it as ah. All right, so we just want to point that out. Now, next thing to point out with this, brothers and sisters, where we're seeing Yisrael, this is the Yod, the Kirik, the Sin, the Shawar, the Resh with the Kwamat, and the Lamed with the Zareh. Now, let's look at this very carefully. This Yod that you see right here, right, making a Y sound, all right, serves as a prefix. So if you were to just say this here, the Sin and the Resh, right, it comes from the root word Sarah. The word Sarah in Hebrew means to contend, all right? So we want to point that out for reference purposes. So now this Yod serves as the third person, the third person masculine, singular, future tense. Why do we want to point out, brothers and sisters, the aspect of it saying in future tense is this? Because this word here, El, right? It comes from the root word ayil. The word ayil, brothers and sisters, means to have power or to be mighty or to have strength. So that's something we want to point out in that particular regard. So what are we saying, brothers and sisters, in this particular case? Is this Yod, all right, serving as a prefix, showing the future tense of this root word here, meaning as stated to contend. And this one here, El, translated loosely by saying God, speaking of the Creator. Yisrael would mean, brothers and sisters, El, the Creator, will contend. That's what that means in that particular case. So many times brothers and sisters would say that Yisrael means Prince of the Power. In spirituality, perhaps.
But if you want to talk about the aspect of literal meaning, or if you want to talk about the aspect of linguistics, as opposed to just spiritual aspect on why Jacob was given that name, this is what we want to point out in that particular case. Now, as stated, this is not going to be long. Just wanted to point this out for reason and purposes and so forth and so on. All right. We want to emphasize, as has been pointed out in other videos, that Yisrael is not from Isis, Ra, and El. That's something that was purported by Masons and people of that kind of nature to try to throw people off from the truth of what it is. You understand? It is not from Isis, Ra, and El. Isis is not even an Egyptian god or goddess. That's a whole nother subject. We're not going to get too far into that particular aspect. And brothers and sisters, El, we want to talk about a little bit, if we will. All right? Let's look at that. Many times people say that El was a Canaanite deity and then say that the Israelites adopted it. Saying El, brothers and sisters, is no different than saying the quote-unquote loose term in English, God. You understand? So if somebody said God in 1604 and then somebody said God in 2004, one did not borrow it. We have to just know and understand, brothers and sisters, what this speaker or author is talking and conveying. All right? So as pointed out, this word here, El, comes from the root word, all right, Ayil, which means to be mighty or to have strength. In Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 32, you read La'el Yadeka, meaning speaking about power in your hand. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, in the scriptures, before Ham came into existence, Ham is the father of Canaan, right? You had a person named Mahalalel. All right. And you have the word El in that man's name. So that's something we want to point out in that particular regard. You have Mahalalel. Mahalalel. All right, that's in the book of Genesis. All right, that was even before, brothers and sisters, Ham even came into existence, much less Canaan. So El, identifying power, mighty, so forth and so on, was already known among the people even before the Hamite dispensation came into the earth. All right, so we just want to point that out for reason and purposes. With that, shalom.